Hello, you're listening to 101 Part-Time Jobs. It's the podcast where I interview bands and musicians, their various and precarious side hustles. And on today's episode, we got Sam Kless of California emo pop punkers Mum Jeans. And Sam's also in the righteous funk ska group Just Friends. He's had loads of jobs, he's been at it, he's been at the grindstone, as you're about to hear. This is a longer episode than normal, so hope you enjoy. 2000 Trees Festival has made this episode happen. It's going down next week in Cheltenham, just a few hours away from London, where Thrice and Turnstile and Idols will be headlining. There are so many amazing bands there, it's just unreal. 2000treesfestival.co.uk to get your tickets to see everyone from Laura Jane Grace to the Get Up Kids to Creeper to Together Pangea and Kneecap. 2000 Trees Festival, give it a look there. If you're going to go last minute and you're making that excellent decision to bash off work or school or whatever else is bringing you down, you can get 10% off your tickets with the voucher code 101POD. 101POD for 10% off your weekend ticket. That's going to save you about 20 quid or so. 20 quid you could spend much better elsewhere. You can start taking up smoking or something cool like that. Only joking, smoking is not that cool. Here is Sam Kless. Mum Jean's new record, Sweet Tooth, is out now. It's pretty damn good. Cheers for listening. Go well. Cheers. I got no business butting in. I just feel better if I told you so right now. When speaking to Hayley, your press person here, I was informed that you've had a selection, of like good fucking tales.
Yes, definitely. I've worked a long time.
I mean, when you think about that stuff, this is all like apart from band, aside from band stuff. I mean, I suppose on these jobs you're going to be looking at your phone. Am I right in thinking that you're quite like a doer in the band?
What does that mean?
Like, do the emails and you'll do this, the communication side of it, and the production work, and just like having a hand in. You're a doer.
Yeah, I'm definitely a doer for sure.
It shines within you, does it?
Yeah, a little bit. I went to University of San Francisco and I got a degree in communication.
Right.
So
good place to start.
Definitely a good place to start. Yeah.
Before that, were you playing in bands and finding out, how it works, how you get a show, how you can drive somewhere, and how you can sleep in a parking lot?
Yeah, I definitely. I've been playing in bands since I was 11, and I'm 28 now. So, right. But yeah, it was very.
What was your first tour?
My first ever tour was in 2012 or 13, and I had an older friend who was like 25, I think, at the time, and he was in a punk band. His name was Ed. And I used to go to their shows, and my band was definitely not punk at all, but he really, we were friends, and he told me, he's like, it's not that hard. And I was like, what do you mean? It's really not hard to do the touring, because it's a dream of mine to go play. And so then that's when I decided, all right, well, our drummer is moving, our original drummer, out of state, never coming back. Let's try to do this. And so I booked like a 3-day tour from what I thought was Los Angeles, but I later found out it's called the Inland Empire, and it's it's about an hour or so away from LA. But yeah, and that's where actually I made some lifelong friendships with the director of all these Mom Jeans videos, like Crybaby and What's Up. Right. His name is Zach Miller. He booked our show for my other band is called Just Friends.
Yeah.
And so we played the Inland Empire, and we played Isla Vista because our guitar player was going to school in UC Santa Barbara. So it was a really hodgepodge tour, but yeah, that's why I figured it out through the emails, and something I always tell people when they're trying to tour is like, pick a date. Because I was hitting up places and I was like, can we play? And I'd get like, are you a joke band, or when are you going to be here? So it's always nice to have a couple anchor dates if you're doing it yourself, to like, oh yeah, we're going to be here on the 30th. So
So like you figured out pretty quickly that it's like spinning plates.
Oh my god! I mean, that's the thing is, I didn't really go to college. I mostly just showed up at class, and then I just used it as like my work time to like book shows and tours, and I was just on my laptop. Like everyone's, I kept up with it, but it was, I was so entrenched with this other life that I had, which was like, creative and trying to, yeah, like make art and take it on the road and meet people and,
Mm.
exactly what you're saying. Like it's, you just spend hours and hours on, like, back in that time frame, it was Facebook. It was like there's different groups for different cities and different regions and different even genres. It's like if you're a rock band from, you know LA, here's the people you need to go talk to, and it's so
Yeah.
many
Yeah.
messages back in my Facebook that's just like, copy paste, here's my band, please book us, this, that, the other thing.
I think that's the thing that I've seen is that, when bands are in a particular scene and at night, that's a lot more zoomed in or niche. If you're talking about like fest punk,
Yeah,
and as soon as like a band plays a couple of shows within that world, they immediately have like a like room to move to. You know what I mean? You immediately have a sort of
totally. I
direction.
mean, yeah, you're seeing it with the ska scene right now, where it's like you know, the Ska 2 Network, our friend Eichler's,
Yeah, so good.
Cat Bite, all these bands that came together and have created this thing that is happening and this buzz that is happening around ska, which is super cool. Everyone likes to be like ska's dead or anything, but it's then, yeah, you take that and then they have these people who support each other, and
Hmm.
then you can go do that at fest and then branch out. It's all about, yeah, like, blossoming your connections and who you play with, and it's been interesting. It's interesting with Just Friends because we're a little bit different and we play pop funk music, and with Mom
Yeah.
Jeans it's a little bit easier. It was a little bit easier in the beginning. Before I was in the band, I helped book shows and, here and there with them and stuff. And when you play, type of music and there's a scene out there, it's like you want to be in that scene, and that's kind of like,
Hmm.
yeah, like you said, you find the door, and then there's, thousands of other doors you can go through once you find that first one.
Right. Right. I mean, I remember learning that the Streetlight Manifesto bassist, I think it might have been the Catch 22 bassist, was their tour booker. Um,
Hmm.
and that kind of Kevin Gunther was the trumpet player. One of the, yeah, and that changed my life, because I was
Yeah.
like, oh, that's like a job. And I was Googling them and finding out they worked for a tour booking agency. And you're
Yeah.
like,
Well, I was a
that's
real,
a job.
yeah. Like I found out, like, um, I used to really, really be a huge fan of this band, and they were playing Gilman, which is a local venue, and I
More than a
emailed their,
local venue. Sorry.
yeah,
Yeah.
I emailed their manager, and their manager was the singer of this other band that I really liked, and I put the pieces together, like, no way is that the same person, and then it turns out it is, and it's like, you see that, like, there's a band called Future Teens that I think they're super cool. We've met them a couple times. Their manager, I don't know if it still is. It's like Soupy from Wonder Years.
Ace. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, yeah, it's like we're doing some shows and stuff, and then Soupy's texting me, being like, you know, on behalf of this other band. I'm just like, this is wild. You know what I mean? Like,
And you grew up listening to, well, not grown up, but in your late teens, getting into the Wonder Years.
yeah, actually, funny story. Saw them with Streetlight Manifesto. That's when I
Right.
found out about them. They opened up in 2010, and when we've toured a lot with the Wonder Years the last couple of years, both bands. And I tell the story because I remember it. Soupy lost his keys, like walking around San Francisco, and they found them and brought with the laminate and brought it to Slim's, which is the venue. And so I always remind Soupy, I saw you then.
That's
And there's
brilliant.
like seven of us who were like, moshing, and I was, I was a little bit smaller and younger back then, so I was able to stage dive and stuff. But yeah, super cool. I got
Those
the
bit of faith in humanity when that stuff happens.
Yeah, totally. I got the purple all caps. You don't need to pump your fist to look sweet T-shirt.
It's funny. Everyone in England is like, like Captain Crunch. All right, I had no idea what that is, but yeah, all right, I'm gonna
Oh
sing
yeah,
it.
I mean they scrubbed the internet with that. It's funny. I mean it's funny with JF. It's like our old record sounds nothing like what we sound like now. Similar. It's like
Mm.
we don't really play any of that record anymore, and it's like I heard of like Soupy. It's like yeah, we don't play that. Like you don't play the Captain Crunch songs. It's.
Right.
But I remember losing my mind, like being like 16, being like yeah.
Yeah, man. I went to see him at this small place in London that the promoter of that show would eventually become my housemate.
Oh
Um,
cool.
but I met Soupy outside, and I think I'd just come straight from school.
It was
And
his birthday the other day, by the way.
was it? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know him at all, but this night, I stage dived again. It's like 10 people kind of
Yeah.
pushing to the front, and he said my name, and I was like, oh, that's nice. You remember my name. It's like those little things stick with you, don't they?
Oh, totally, man.
Oh.
Like, I mean, I remember I was talking about that with Joel this morning, like 10 years ago or so. It was like I saw Title Fight
Mm.
open up for Rise Against and
Wow.
A Day to Remember at my college that I went to for a short time. They had like an event center, and my music class got out, and I walked around, and I had heard that from other people that like that's where Load In is, and so I like walked around, just like, oh, maybe I'll run into something or somebody,
Yeah.
and then I walked, and then all of a sudden there's Title Fight literally pulling up when their van and trailer. Jamie's like skateboarding, and like this is before Floral Green came out, and like I was so into Shed, and Ned walks up to me and like pulls his hair back, and he's just like, "Yo, what's up? I'm Ned." I'm like, you're my favorite band."
Great.
And they literally like they were talking. We talked a little bit. They showed him pictures of the tour because they were playing like house shows and stuff on the off days from this big arena tour, which is their first one, and they got me into the show for free. They guest listed me and Kent, who is the old school Just Friends member, who's now plays in Save Face. Actually,
Right.
if you know that band,
Yeah.
they're on Epitaph. He plays keys and guitar and sings. We went on the Title Fight's guest list, and that's like, crazy thing.
Yeah.
That's like 10 years ago now, but yeah, it's like I'll always remember that for show.
It must have like had such a profound effect on you, not as like a cool story, but maybe more than that. It makes it real life, right? These people are real people who are kind and like will put out their hand or pull their hair back when they say hi. And these are I wonder if that like gave you a bit of impetus or
Yeah.
self-belief, a belief in yourself.
Oh, it totally did. I mean, I was at like that era of my life, like I was trying to find myself, like just graduated high school, like you're dealing with it, being on your own in the world, you know what I mean? It's like you're dealing with all this stuff for the first time, and it's just like I said 10 years ago, I remember it vividly today, like like till this day it's like it's always stuck with me, like and it just showed me too like how to treat people,
Yeah. Yeah.
like these are all people who were trying to like the thing is, the way that happened is he asked me if I was going to the show, and I said no way. It's the show is $40, and it's like I don't have $40. I'm 19 and I work part time at a birdseed store, like on the weekend. Getting paid like I think I was getting paid $10.75 or something, and I was only working every other weekend, and so I was like, no way. And then that's why they put me on the guest list because I couldn't afford to go. Like that is, they didn't
That's
have to
cool.
do anything. They didn't even have to talk to me, but every single one of them talked to me, and every single one, like it was,
Amazing. Amazing.
it was amazing. Yeah, it was amazing.
And funny you mentioned the job thing. Obviously, that's what this podcast is about. But
Yeah,
those jobs, we talk about art so much, and we talk about touring so much, and all of these things, they are within the like pretty rigid structure of working, right? Of
yeah,
jobs. If you can have one that lets you when you come back from tour or comes back from making a record, or when you have to leave work early to go practice or turn
yeah.
up late. I mean, I feel like that's why I wanted to start this. like show is because I love hearing those stories. I love the reality of it, and that kind of goes back to kind of like more kind of well before our years of I guess Ian Mackay stuff about working for yourself. There's that element of it.
Yeah.
There's kind of Mike Watt, Minutemen, Minutemen, like work by day, play by night. I don't think that's ever changed, even though the music might be poppier.
Yeah, no way. I mean, it's like, you always hear the stories about, oh, that person works here, worked there, and this and that. Like, I've been always super fortunate to, like, my first job was that birdseed store, like in 2009 or something, like 2008 or 9. I was 15 or 16, I can't remember. And I started working for Wild Birds Unlimited as a certified bird feeding specialist. And I
You might
worked.
have to elaborate on all of that.
it's
How did you become certified?
So I had to take. I went in the back on this old PC, and then I like had to do these trainings where I like understood what kind of birds ate what and why and how and in the this and that, and then I became certified through the company because it's a franchise, and there's franchises all over America, and like early like that shop opened in 95, and there's a bunch of them like everywhere there. I don't know how many there are now or whatever, but they're all across America, and they sell like King of the Hill, like the propane accessories. They sell bird seed and bird seed accessories like bird feeders and all sorts of gift shop stuff like like rocks and gems and earthy fun gifts and stuff.
Were
Wind
you into
chime.
it?
I worked there for 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
10 years.
Well, it's over the course of like 2 companies actually, because I worked at Wild Birds Unlimited from until I think end of 2013 or something like that, and like then the owner's boyfriend, who was the man, like the owner, this guy had like this old dude had like back problems. He like trashed the business and ran it into the ground, while this woman who owned it was like, it was really sad. She had like a bunch of like health issues, and she like couldn't really walk anymore. She broke both her legs. That's really sad stuff. And he was they never got married, but they'd been together forever. He ran the business into the ground and then like left and then like disappeared. And then the whole entire I showed up to work, and then there was an eviction notice on the front door.
And by that point, you must have been quite invested, like emotionally. You can't not be, pretty.
I mean, that was my whole life. You know what I mean? Like in high school, I got it in early high school. And that was my job. I was the kid who worked at the bird store. Like I would work, the weekends and a couple like shifts, like 3 to 6 during the week, and I really developed a lot of relationships with a lot of these customers, for years. Because it's a lot of repeat. Yeah, there's a lot of old people, a lot of you'd be surprised the clientele too. But it's like bird feeding is super fun.
Yeah,
hummingbird feeding is cool, all that. And then I knew because I had stepped away a handful of times, like here and there for school and stuff. And then I always knew he was crazy and knew that it was going to go down. But then, showed up to work and I was like, oh, yeah, well, it's over. And then I got an email from my coworker being like, it's over. And then a couple months went by, and this woman named Joni, she has her own business. It's like an independent birdseed store. And she opened directly next door. It's called East Bay Nature. It's the same store, but just she owns it, and she has a really successful one in Walnut Creek. And then it was just me and her. And I worked 6 to 7 days a week for a really long time, commuting to school. And like, that's where I really I became the manager, and I started hiring all my friends. And so I hired and that's how I'm fortunate because I developed this like relationship. Like when I started touring, you know what I mean? Like 2014, and like was when I really started hitting it like big time, where I was like, okay, we're going to go on our first big, 2-week, month-long tour. I
Mm.
think I forget, it was like 2015 or something. And I was trying to figure out how to break it to Joni, like, how can I be gone for a month, like, keep my job, because I loved my job, but I had so
Mm.
much responsibility. She let me hire my little brother for a
Great.
month. For a month, yeah. And so
Great.
she bent the rules for me, and then I started. I was able to, like, since I was such a good employee, all my recommendations I were great, like, on the employees. And now, all these years later, the last, like, the Dublin store closed down because of they're trying to level that entire shopping center for condos. But one of my
Right.
hires, it was one of my good friends. He's still there, and he's like the main employee, like, kind of manager guy now. So he
Shout
was
out
my
to.
shout out to Chris Wells.
Do you
He's
know what?
also
That's
on,
such a rare story. This is like the 130 something episode of this podcast. And, there
yeah.
are a lot of people who have enjoyed their jobs, but this has been one of the most, that story, just what you told me there, just a glimpse of it. Like, it kind of tells me that's like the most kind of, community like job. That's what it sounds like to me.
Oh, I mean, that's the thing, is then I started working for my community too, because what happened was I was going to school at the same time, and commuting, and then so I would go to school Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then work at the bird store Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday, and then sometime after, when I graduated and we were hitting the touring stuff super hard, and I had a lot of more employees, I needed something to fill my time. But I was
Mm.
like, I tried the whole thing where, you graduate and then you apply for all these jobs you hate, and you're
Yeah.
in the Bay
Yeah.
Area, so you apply to all these tech companies and all this stuff. And I remember, like, I interviewed for Wix was it
Yeah.
Wix.com.
Wix. Yeah.
Never have I ever wanted to, like, I was one of the darkest moments of my life. For show was I was in that interview, and it was a group interview, and it was for a, like, it was like for, like, you were on the telephone and you were supposed to be what is it, like,
Like
tech support.
salesperson. Oh,
Tech
right.
support, yeah. And, like, they were telling me, like, yeah, you have to do this, and you have to get your time down as, like, supposed to be like a 2 to 3 minute thing. You're supposed to know everything. 30 people in this group interview, and they brought us in. They're like, okay, well, what would you have if you got $1 million today? What would you do? And all these people, everyone, I was the only person who said they would donate any of the money. And, like, I was like, that's hella sad. And then it was like, the whole corporate thing, like, here's pizza and here's all this, and, like, we're really fun and cool. This
Mm.
is, like, awesome, like, to work in tech, blah blah. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I remember driving, and they're like, this is when you'd get off, every day. It's like awesome. And it's in San Francisco, and I live in the suburbs with my parents. And I got on the bridge, and it took me like 2.5 hours to get home, and I, like, cried. I was like, this is what, like, life is like to survive, like, after you
Yeah.
graduate. Like, this
Yeah.
is my whole life. This is gonna be my whole life, is this shitty company that sucks. And I didn't
Yeah.
even get the job. After too, I was like, I didn't even get, like, I thought I interviewed pretty well, but I didn't even get it. And then so I said,
Which is the
okay,
story of so many people.
yeah.
It's just constant, that, man.
Like,
I
thank
know
God I
so
didn't
many
get that.
people, even now.
Yeah. And so I was like, yeah, I mean, I was going up against, like, people who have, like, master's degrees and going to this horrible job that paid, like, maybe, like, $4 more than the birdseed store. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's like, I'm gonna be wasting all that money in gas and car stuff anyway.
Yeah.
But so what I did was, Ovi, who's in Just Friends, has been working for the city of Dublin, where that's, like, where I grew up, where I live with my parents,
Mm.
for years. And I was like, oh, that'd be fun to, like, because I'm really, really proud of being from the Bay Area, and I really, really loved growing up where I did. And so I applied for a job at the city of Dublin, and a part-time job, and I got it. And so I worked at the Heritage Center, which is this. They moved the first settlers, like, these 1800s houses, onto this park, and it's connected to the first schoolhouse and the first church and the cemetery. So I started working at the cemetery for the city of Dublin. And so what I would do is I'd work the birdseed store Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or whatever. And then I'd worked for the city of Dublin. So I worked essentially a full-time job between two part-time jobs. And so that is what I was able to use to my advantage to, get time off and play. I'd play the jobs against each other. And then also too, as I was able to, it's easier to get part-time work off for these tours because I don't have any time off. I would just be like, oh, I'm going to be gone on a trip or whatever. But I'm, like I'm pretty close with all my coworkers wherever I go. So they know what I'm up to. And they're
Yeah,
everyone's super supportive of the band stuff. And so, yeah, I started working at the Heritage Center and, I would give tours and to kids and I ran summer camps and, you
brilliant.
know, and it was
That's
super fun. I worked there's a museum on the campus. It was really awesome. I loved it. And then that's what I did. And then I got passed up a couple times. My boss, I really I got passed up a couple times because we were so short staffed. I had to do all this work extra because I was a facility attendant one, and I was doing the job of like a facility attendant like two or a senior facility attendant, and they opened up the job to give me the promotion, and then they hired someone else outside twice.
amazing.
And
Amazing.
so, yeah, and so then I finally said, then my supervisor from that job, she moved to special events, and she took me with her. And Monique, like I'll always, I'll never forget what she did for me. She literally took me and put me on these special events, and that's like what my calling was. I loved it. Like I would work like 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. doing these events, and it was incredible. It was a very beautiful time of my life. I really loved to work, unfortunately, but like I was doing, and I was kind of stepping away from the bird store a little bit at the same time too, even though I was manager, because I worked there, like I said, 10 years, like from 15 to 25. You know what I mean? Like,
Insane.
yeah, and so but yeah,
Like that's a big time where you grow up, right?
yeah, big time, yeah, and that's the thing is like the bird store was cool because I was, I worked alone and I was able to like hang out with my friends and they come visit and like, you know, here and there. It was like super fun. And then the special events was cool, even though it was part time. It's part time, like in the state of California for a rec or whatever. It's like I could only work 1,000 hours. Like a lot of jobs as part time, you're capped. So
1,000 hours a
a
month,
year,
a
a
year.
year.
I was gonna say
Yeah.
I'm bad with
So
maths, but yeah.
no, yeah. So like, it always ended up being this thing where I'd always reach the hours cap, so I'd have to take time off too. Oh, it's like, oh,
Right.
Sam, you can't work for another month and a half. Oh, well, I'm gonna go on tour, so who cares? So I was the perfect employee, and we were able to do this thing where we were able to work 40 hours a week too. Like me and my coworker Jordan, we met and we worked every day, Monday through Friday, and then sometimes on the weekends for the events. And the events are like, community events, park openings, the breakfast with Santa Claus, the Easter event, extravaganza. We were from the city of Dublin, so we have this massive St. Patrick's Day festival, which is like 90,000 people come for the weekend. And I was like third in command at those festivals behind like my boss and their assistant. And yeah, and Jordan and I worked. It was me, Jordan, Alicia, and Stephanie. Stephanie was the big boss. She's like a second mom to me. Same with Alicia, who was like our age, but she was a couple years older, so she got the rec tech job. And then me and Jordan, and we were like the hands. And so we'd spend all weekend getting all the supplies, all week doing this, and we were in charge of the storage facility there too. And that's how it became like I ended up like having to be the Easter bunny at the I had to be the Easter bunny at the Easter events, and then I had so that was fun. We do these camp outs too, where like you have the first ever camp out. You camp in a park, and then you get the city like barbecues for you, and then there's a movie or whatever, and
That's nice.
and it's super cool, like very developed. Some of these cities are very developed with their rec programs, and then there's a music performance at the end, like usually some campfire songs. Guess what? They call me saying the campfire person canceled. Sam, we need you to play. And so I had to play. And I don't know, I played This Is Your, this land is my land. This land is your land. Spaghetti and meatballs, like all these songs that I know. None of these kids knew anything. None of them. And Kent played with me, and Kent just started playing the final countdown, and all the kids started losing their minds. And
on his keyboard,
on his acoustic guitar.
Get out.
Yeah. And so it's just funny, and I had to do that, and yeah, it's that is the wild stuff, is I'm on these big events, and we're doing all that stuff, and I really thought rec was going to be my calling, honestly. I went to school for communication. That's a subset of it. And so I went over to the town of Danville because I really wanted to that's when I finally stopped working at the bird store, and I did 2 rec jobs part-time. So then I had the events job, but then I had a desk job at town of Danville, which is 2 towns over. And I was the youth program assistant, which means was the assistant to the coordinator for the whole town and all their events for the ages 3 to 11, which really meant I made curriculum for summer camps. And their summer camps are some of the most sought after in the whole Bay Area, because Danville is a really nice community.
Right.
And I had a couple different, we had kids night out, which is 2 times a month. These kids come, and the parents drop them off, and then we watch them from 6 to 11, and it's a themed party with a movie and crafts and all that stuff. So I had planned out the whole thing. And it was my dream job. It was everything I've ever wanted. And I was able to still do music. And this is when Just Friends and Mom Jeans was we were touring quite a lot, but nothing really crazy until the Puppy Love US tour with Mom Jeans and JF, to where I had to really ask for a whole month in time off, because I was working a lot for Danville. And the relationships
did that give you working at Danville, did that give you an understanding of a budget?
Yeah, totally. Everything. I was like a suit. I would show up with a collared shirt and pants and stuff. And then the Dublin job was more of okay, a dirty job. You're gonna go paint this massive sign, and then I'm gonna have you drive an hour to go pick up this thing I found on Craigslist. So the duality was funny, because I would work I would either work 9 to 2 at Danville, then 2 to 5 or 2 to 6 at Dublin some days. And it was I was this grunt worker in one, and then I was hi, this is Sam at the town of Danville. How can I help you? On the other. And and then there too is there was I've both places I've met some of the most amazing people, and some really people I really truly love. And Danville, I thought was I thought the music thing was going to work out. I was this is my calling. I'm going to be the rec guy. And then, after that Just Friends Mom Jeans tour, it was whoa, things are kind of moving. Pure Noise started showing up for JF. Then Mom Jeans was getting bigger by the second, it seemed like. And
and did you weren't in Mom Jeans at that time?
I wasn't, but I was
so close to it.
So close to, yeah. I mean, I was I've known Eric a really long time, and so we grew up together in the same suburb, but I was really close with Bart. And so I playing Grad Life as well. So it was a very Eric would look up to me and Bart for some help with some of these decisions. And same with Joel, who we because we came from the class before Mom Jeans, me, Bart, and Joel. And then the next class was Eric. I
think that's such a big thing, to have people you can look up to and ask questions. Because when you don't have that, you're pretty lost.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is we're not taking credit or whatever what it is, but that was a part of me and Eric's relationship, was because he would play in Just Friends too. That's how it was his introduction to touring stuff, is we needed a fill-in trombone player for a couple tours. He hopped in,
right, great,
crushed it and everything, and then we would JF made a lot of mistakes, so that Mom Jeans wouldn't make a ton or something. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
JF like has done the some horrible shit, like some like the parking lot van sleeping, the 8 people 1 hotel room that you can't afford type stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, the world against you stuff. But yeah, and then the defining thing was my I came back from Europe. We did the Europe tour together, and Mom Jeans and JF at the time. And then I came back, and my boss sat me down in Danville and was like, "Yo, so this job that is mine is opening up. I'm getting promoted to supervisor, and they want to, promote you to coordinator. It's like my dream job at this point. You know what I mean?" And he literally said, his name's RJ, he's my boss. He's hella funny. He goes, "So are you gonna take the job? Or are you gonna rock?" And then, and also, by the way, we had just been given the offer for Sad Summer that morning or
Mm.
whatever. So I'm staring at the barrel of like my dream job or my band and my best friends going on what is like Warp Tour #2, crazy, like, you know, amazing opportunity. What do I do? And then I kind of I just was like, I think I'm gonna rock. And I put all my faith in that. And then that's right around the time when uh, I was offered the Mom Jeans job too, as well. After I made that decision, they didn't correlate either. I just took blind faith that the music thing was going to work because I believed in it at the time. Um, but yeah,
I mean,
and
but
then it,
sitting, putting yourself back in that chair now with RJ, is that his name?
yes,
Can you put yourself back in that place now, and how what does that feel like?
it's funny you say that because I I play Santa Claus for the town of Danville every year. So I just like I I just what's the word? Saw them, and I just came back for the first time. Like the Santa during COVID was, we did a drive by thing, and it was like, there was no real hope for my job ever coming back, or like, because I ended up staying on, and my employee, his name's Tim, he got my job, and I kind of like helped him. I helped him coach him up for the first couple, like the first 6 months, and RJ was like, I don't make this decision to have Tim be the coordinator without having Sam here to teach you how to do this, because Tim went straight up from being a part-time like employee to like being the boss like overnight almost,
Right.
and so Tim and I are super close because of that, because we're friends, like we're like around the same age, and you know uh so I just went back there actually to play Santa, and this is the first time there's kids available to come and all this stuff, and it was really emotional for me, honestly. Like, I was kind of looking at like what my life would have been if I stayed, and you
Mm.
know, and that stuff, and it's like I'm glad that I chose what I chose, because that's the life I live, and very thankful for it. But I couldn't help but also be, think about like, whoa, like the relationships and the people and like the lives that the life I could have lived. Also, too, it's like the life that I was my brother's a teacher, my sister's a nurse,
Mm.
uh, and
Working
like
with people.
work a community, like you said, working in the community, and like when the pandemic hit, um, we all kind of sat around like, are we gonna do this anymore? Like, well, I don't know. And so I applied to uh, to become a high school guidance counselor. Like I applied to
Right.
go to get a master's degree in that. I enrolled in everything, and then the first day of school, or the first like official thing when I was in, they doubled the tuition, and I couldn't afford to go anymore, so I
Fuck.
dropped out. And so it's like that was always a dream of mine, was like to be a teacher, like work in schools and stuff like that. And rec wasn't able as a way to do that, but on like a community level.
Mm.
And so, it's something I've always, thought about I could go back to one day or whatever. And they played around with like, maybe like summertime if my part-time job comes back or whatever. Because
Yeah.
it still hasn't come back since COVID because of budgets and stuff. But
Being a teacher and doing your masters, if you can afford, if it's an affordable price for anyone, it's like that's not something you can ever do too late in life.
they literally doubled the price. It was crazy. It was like I was going to do the online program at University of North Dakota. Like my friend is in that, has just, finished that program and loved it, and that's why I was going to go. But it
Right.
went from like $400 a unit to $805 a unit, and I was like, yeah, that's literally double what I had planned.
How many units in a year?
I think it was going to be like, I think for it was going to be like either $5,000 or $10,000 a semester. I think.
Fuck, you can't
I
do
can't
that.
remember what it was, but it was something where it was like out of reach. Not just out of reach, can double out of reach or whatever.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I've always thought about it, and I don't know, it's I can, even right now I'm getting kind of emotional talking about it because it's like I love those people, I love that town, I love the community, and like I love that job. But honestly, I love what I do now. I wouldn't trade it for the world. You know what I mean? I'm very privileged and very, very lucky to be in the position that I am. And it's, from a lot of hard work, obviously for me, but also a lot of hard work from everybody around me. Everyone in Just Friends, everyone in Mom Jeans, a lot of work from Joel, a lot of work from Brad, like, because we have the same teams for both bands.
I have to say it's so nice to sit here and hear about your dedication, I suppose, and like the way that you've put yourself, you put your heart into it, into working with other people and into those jobs. Because I think a lot of people do jobs and maybe don't necessarily feel that, or let themselves feel that.
Yeah, I was very, very lucky to have those experiences in my jobs. And like I said, all these people were super supportive, and because of those relationships I was able to go, like, take that time off. They gave me like the golden ticket of like, you're having your job when you come back. And honestly,
Yeah.
working in between tours, like, it really, really helps you stay, I think, like connected and, I don't know, humble or whatever. But it's like, it forced me to go to the real world. I mean, I had to, to afford it or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, but at the same time too, you're living this life where you like go city to city and like get wasted all the time. I mean, I don't drink, but like, it's a party every night. It's like this unreal, like, thing. But it's a lot of work too. It's like exhausting. And then you come back and it's like, that's not the real life for a lot of people. You know what I mean? Like, my mom has never been to New York City, and I went to like New York City like 4 times last year in the middle of a pandemic.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's
Yeah.
that kind of like stuff where you're like, you really think about it. And
Well,
yeah,
it also sounds like you got like a smart head on your shoulders, because, I still don't. I feel like even I'm 30 and I work at a radio station here 4 days a week and then do my own thing 3 days a week, including this, for example.
yeah.
And it's like, I still don't feel smart about what I'm doing,
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I don't know. You gotta, like, there's I don't know. We always joke around that's like, are we're not like, you're not smart. You can't be smart to do some of this stuff. You know what I mean? Like, because that's gonna stop you from taking the risk. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm gonna tell you, I used to go to Fuddruckers, if you know that restaurant.
No.
It's like and eat off the table, like, because they had bussers at those tables. Me and my friend Matt Berry, who plays in Angel Dust currently, like, we
Wow,
grew up
cool.
together, and we'd go to this restaurant and then sit there and wait for people to leave and eat their leftovers because we wanted to afford to go on tour. You know what I mean? Because we couldn't afford it because we were like 18 years old with like I said, working at the Bird store. He worked at the movie theater. So it's like, he's getting paid less than I am, working way harder. and we're just here like, oh man, that person like left half their burger and their onion rings. Go, 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 go. Like, so we could, you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah,
smart
I
people
love
don't
it.
do that kind of shit. No way. Like that's some dumb people stuff. But like,
Well,
yeah, I don't
fuck.
know.
I mean, Sam,
Yeah,
thanks for telling me all those stories. I think it's
yeah.
really important that people know that, working to play music or working to do your art doesn't really have to be a negative thing.
Nah, but it definitely can, because that's the thing is like after the like during the pandemic, like I lost both my jobs. I got laid off from both of them, and
Right.
and but then I was offered this job back. They're like, the city of Dublin was like, we're not doing events, but we really need a health officer. And I was like, what is that? Turned out to be the worst job I've ever had in my entire life. I worked it from June 2020 to January, like the first week of January 2021. I would go to the parks and I had to kick people out if they didn't. The parks were banned at the time. I had to kick people out of the parks, and then when the parks opened up, I had to kick people out. I had to tell. I was the mask police. I
No.
was literally I would go back and forth at the main parks, and I'd have to enforce the COVID guidelines. So
That's
I'd like,
that's what a COVID compliance officer does.
yeah, I was a COVID compliance officer for the
Right.
city of Dublin, like during the pandemic, because that was like my rec job. I went from like this beautiful, like awesome, like I said, this amazing jobs like with the city, to working this job where I hated every second of it, but I needed the money. And
Mm.
so I would drive around the parks, and I'd have to stop, like, because basically it'd be like the 45 people soccer games at 8 a.m., no mask. Like, this is the height of COVID too, you know what I mean?
Mm.
Like and they were just like, I got called every slur in the book. I got weights thrown at me. I got called, like, people were pissed, because I was ruining their good time. But I was like, this is, we're in the middle of a pandemic. I don't think you really need to be like playing soccer with all your boys right now. Like,
And so you'd have
yeah,
to stroll up to a large group
yeah.
and say, "Hey, all of you." Like, how do you approach that? I mean, speaking to
So
four
I
people at
had
once is hard enough.
So I had a vest that I would get made fun of for, and a big binder, and I'd walk up and be like, "Hey guys, just letting you know, like I work for the city, and I gotta shut you guys down, unfortunately. Like, the park is closed. Like, and I had the spiel would change and stuff, and I
Mm.
really only did it. I mean, I needed the money for sure, but Stephanie, who was my boss, who she needed somebody to do this job, and she called me and was like, "I'm calling you to like beg you to do this for me because I need somebody." And I was like, I always said I would do anything for Stephanie. Uh, so I did, and I did it for a long time. And then,
Wow.
uh, but it was awesome. Stephanie always took care of me and like helped me out,
Yeah.
like with like how bad it was. But then, yeah, it was just like the, I couldn't take it after Stephanie went on medical leave and then retired. And that was taken over by this woman who was the assistant director, and she was not chill. She was not fun. Worst boss I have ever worked for. And so I just like I literally quit. Like, she asked for my availability, and I said I am no longer available. He's like super disrespectful, like calling employees at like 10 p.m. to
Right.
tell them that they did a bad job that day, and like, she was calling me on my days off to like complain about me, and like all this stuff. And I was just like, I'm not taking this like disrespect stuff. Like, I know what it's like to work for like, a really good people, and
Yeah. I was thinking that sounds like the first kind of bad experience,
I mean,
as a whole.
the first guy at the bird store was kind of bad. He kind of lost it towards the end, but this was like actual disrespect. I was like,
Mm.
I returned all of my like staff clothes in like a toilet paper bag, and I was like, "Here's my clothes. Don't contact me anymore." Like,
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
it was really sad. I was like, "This sucks."
Yeah, I was gonna say that that's quite righteous, but no, it's not. It's actually kind of a bummer, right?
Yeah, it's like I worked at the city of them for like 5 or 6 years, and it's like, who are you? Like, who are you? No one know. Like,
Mm.
you just started working here, and like everyone,
Mm.
you know,
Mm.
everyone hated that job. You know what I mean?
Mm,
Like,
mm, mm. Fuck.
I
And
just
so that
show.
left you playing music full
Yeah, I
time,
mean,
more or less.
that
And you
that
got
showed me. It, I mean, that's things that job really truly showed me that like I am doing the right thing by like doing the creative stuff and like being being my my own boss with my friends and
mhm.
doing it. It's like it showed me to work harder at what I love because I could be doing this and I could be working for people like this for the rest of my life. And I'm
Did
not.
I mean, being your own boss, like naturally, there's a kind of entrepreneurial part of that. A big part of that, right? It's like making your own decisions and your direction and being
Yeah.
smart about that stuff. And is that
Well, I'm
something
lucky.
you've thought a lot about?
Yeah, I mean, I'm lucky to have a really good team around me. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, now my job between tours is, you know, this clothing company that me and Joel have, and it's like it started with the, I would be my mom would be the one. My mom's house was the place where we'd always meet and all this stuff. So we had all the old leftover band merch from the tours, and I learned like, oh yeah, you can put them up online. And I didn't want to manage like five or six, like the Mom Jeans Big Cartel, the Just Friends Big Cartel, the Grad Life Big Cartel. Like I put it under one thing called Honey TV, and I started
Right.
me and Chris Wells actually started like messing with shirts, like tie dyeing them and like bleaching them because my mom actually my mom and dad were Grateful Dead heads, and my mom sold tie dyes in the parking lot of those shows, and they saved up enough money to move to California in the 80s from selling tie dyes. And my
Great.
mom sold
Where
tie
were they
dye
living before that?
Ohio.
Great.
Yeah, and so I mean, my whole life, my mom has made tie dyes and then sold them as like a part time thing. Uh, so she taught us how to do all that stuff, and we started doing that with old band merch. And then when the pandemic hit, it was kind of like, you know, we were like, what do we do now? Because like Joel, it was me, Joel, and then Jacob Gine, who's our TM for Mom Jeans and JF. And we had the system already in place to sell these leftover band merches. But it's like, okay, what do we do? So Joel started like throwing up like crazy designs of his own because he's an illustrator. And people started really, really resonating with him. We did a couple political stuff we donated some money to, and then we just kind of it turned into this thing where we brought in Cody, our videographer and photographer, into the mix, and now it just turned into this clothing company that we like have a storefront opening up on Saturday, and we've been like an
Wow.
online business for over a year, and
Wow.
we've expanded
Opening up a
outside
shop.
of we've expanded outside of the realm of band merchandise, but it's cool. Like the shop's gonna have like it's called Honey TV, and like it's always a place where you can go get your Mom Jeans JF stuff, but also too like we do tons of other stuff, and
Fuck yeah.
that's what I do now. So it's like, yeah, without a great team, great people behind, like the entrepreneurial, I can't even say it, like
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
kind of stuff. It's way harder, and like that's what it was. Like I used to when it was just me, I'd pack all the shirts myself, everything, and I'd go and enter every single. I had to type out every single address and everything at USPS, like at the kiosk. And then
Yeah.
when Jacob came into the mix, he was like, "Nah, we're not doing this anymore." Like, he got the printer set up and everything set up. And then when Joel popped in, he's like, "All right, we're making these designs way cooler now." And so,
Great.
yeah,
Great. Sharing it. Mate, that's the new business that I mean, you're gonna be a retailer
thank you so much for having me.
on that.
Yeah, we've been doing it online for a long, for a long time in this capacity for like, a year or two now. So yeah,
Mm,
we're opening up a little storefront in the middle of Berkeley, across the street from the UC Theater where a lot of bands play. We play a lot.
brilliant.
And
Well,
yeah, Just Friends just played.
congratulations. I mean, I
Yeah,
hope Saturday goes well.
thank you. Yeah, JF just played with Story So Far across the street. We're directly across the street from this theater that we like Mom Jeans played with like Mayday Parade and Motion City Soundtrack a couple times, and
Great. Yeah, man.
yeah, it's cool.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's
Hell yeah.
I was doing I was doing that side hustle merch thing the entire time I was at the Bird store and the city and everything. It's like that's my whole days were that. It was like I'd wake up at like 7 and then I'd go me and Jordan would go check in. We'd like work. I go to Danville or the backwards, and then I'd get off at like 5 or 6 or 7, and then I just pack orders from 7 to 10. You know what I mean? And then go eat in and out of like 10 to 11. And that was my every day was like,
that's aside from practice, playing bass, playing
yeah,
stuff. Wow.
Yeah. I would have to set aside time. Yeah. But that's the thing that was cool is like that time Bart would like, he lives 3 hours away, 2 hours away. He would come up and then I would be like, I'd set aside. We would just write songs. Like we would just work like, that was what I would do. You know what I mean? I would be like, all right, I'm leaving early today. And then we'd just like play, you know what I mean?
Great. Well,
So,
Sam, thank you so much. Oh, sorry.
No, just say that's how I'd fit it in.
Yeah, mate, it's pretty unbelievable. Can you look at that in one viewpoint now and kind of see that you did all that?
That's crazy. It's like, I don't know, I'm still in it. I'm still, Mom Jeans and Just Friends are both full-time things, and we're both releasing records. We tried so hard to make them separate. You know what I mean? Like, but they're coming out right on top of each other. Like Mom Jeans just dropped a single today, and then Just Friends drops a single tomorrow. It's just funny. No matter how hard I try, somehow it's just, I'm a busy person.
Well, thank you for fitting me into your schedule.
Yeah, well, hey, thank you so much for having me.
So there was Sam Kless of Mum Jeans. You've been listening to 101 Part-Time Jobs. 2000 Trees is next weekend. Don't forget to pick up your tickets. I'll be back with 1 or 2 more episodes before finishing for the summer. See you next week. Is Sparrer.
I've been working all day for me mate on the side, running around like a blue ass fly. I've been working all day for me mate. Every bleeding minute I've been on the go, up and down the ladder like a fiddler's elbow. I've been working all day for me mate.
This is a Mighty Moon Media podcast.